Alrighty, hello everyone and welcome back to the Reformed Dissenters, the show where Reformed Christians dissent against popular ideas of culture by asserting a biblical worldview. My name is Bruce Johnson. I am joined today, as always, by my brother Jacob Johnson.
Hello everybody.
So he's there, and there being Pennsylvania, and I'm in the state of South Dakota, and you are in a state or another country perhaps. We would love to hear about where you are. You can do that by sending us an email at trdshow@protonmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Check out our show website, trdshow.net. All sorts of cool stuff on that website. And if you're brand new to the show, Jake, what did we just get back from? This past week was interview week from
the Fight Life Peace Conference, out in Tennessee, Knoxville.
Yes, so much fun. That event was fantastic, and I'm sure we have a ton of new listeners. So, to get acquainted, let's help you settle into this brand new show. trdshow.net is our website. We have all sorts of cool stuff there, links to all sorts of different platforms. Check us out on Facebook if you hate free speech, but we're also on Gab, so if you do like free speech and the First Amendment, please follow us there. YouTube has taken down at least 3 of our videos. Who knows how many more are coming down the pike, so don't follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Rumble. If you're already following us on YouTube, hey, don't unsubscribe. Of course, we're not going to tell you to unclick the button, but we will ask you to click a brand new button on a completely different site called Rumble or Gab TV. And actually, there's no subscription button on Gab TV yet. They're working on it. Gab TV 2.0 is coming out in a few months. I could not be happier. He sent out like a list of all the new things and some screenshots about what it's going to look like. Oh, it is seriously going to be a YouTube competitor. I'm so thrilled.
Is Gab Pay already out?
Gab Pay is out. Gab ads are out. Gab, what did he call it? Gab Voice, something like that. It's like Zoom, but it's a Gab version. I'm just like,
I mean, in light of the new PayPal thing that was just coming out, that recently was coming out, I think Gab Pay is what everybody's going to need to
Gab
switch
Pay
to.
is fantastic. And actually I've used Gab Pay because I've used Gab ads, and to pay for Gab ads, you use Gab Pay. So there you go.
Nice.
So yeah, it's great. It works really well. It's pretty much hassle-free. They've also updated a lot of their things. So now all you need is a phone number to be able to pay with Gab Pay. I seriously wish that right now we were being promoted by Gab, or, they were a sponsor, but we're not. We're not sponsored by Gab. Maybe one day. That would be pretty awesome. Anywho, we're back. Regularly scheduled program. We're so excited to be back. Hopefully you enjoyed some of our interviews from last week. Leave us a comment on this video or send us an email with some of your favorite interviews from last week. We interviewed, Toby Sumpter, Jared Longshore, Doug Wilson. I mean, come on. We interviewed some pretty cool people. Gabe Wrench, John Branyan, Jun Shiomitsu from what is it called? Avoda Project.
Claude Ramsey.
Avoda Group. Claude Ramsey from the Here I Stand Theology podcast. Awesome
Greg
group
Moore.
of people. They're so nice. I mean, Greg Moore. We sat in a booth, and on the one side of us was Claude Ramsey and the Here I Stand Theology podcast, and it was William, I forget his last name, but it was Claude and William. They are, let me tell you, they are the nicest bunch of people you will ever meet. It was an absolute pleasure to get to sit with them for 3 days, actually. So check out their podcast, Here I Stand Theology podcast. And then on the other side of them was the Dead Men Walking podcast. And that was Greg Moore, right? And he was awesome. He's hilarious. We had him on the show. We had Claude Ramsey on the show. And then actually right next to us, on the other side of us, was the Bitcoin. Thank God for Bitcoin was the book that, I think it was their company name. He wrote a book called Thank God for Bitcoin, which was really neat. And so we had him on the show as well. So check out all these people. It was like all the booths that were next to us, we got to have an interview with. It was so cool.
Yeah,
it was
really nice.
It was so
good.
Nice. Great Christian
good
fellowship.
Way for us to get our name out and stuff. So it was nice. So if anybody from the event is listening, please let us know if you're a new time listener.
Yeah,
that would be also nice to see all the new people joining us.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was such a fun time. We had psalm singing the whole time. We had some fantastic lectures. those are my first impressions on the conference. I just absolutely loved it. This was our third, right? Our third conference we went to, because there was the two in South Dakota, one last year, one this year, earlier this year.
2 with our show. Being since our show had started,
right? Because there was earlier this year.
Started our show.
It was super neat. So, anyways, we could keep talking about how cool that show or that conference was, and I'd love to do that. But let's get on with today's stuff. We've got a whole bunch of stuff lined up for today. Yeah, I'm so articulate today, aren't I, Jake? On the agenda for today, obviously, it's Monday. So current events Monday is today, hence the ties that Jacob and I are both sporting. Very interesting looking ties. Jacob's is cool, mine is boring. So there's that. We've got a lot of...
Yours is boring.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's not terrible, but it's not as cool as yours. So there's that.
My shirt is boring compared to yours.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's fair. All right. So I made up for it in the shirt. I have to be a little self-deprecating every once in a while. That's part of the game.
That fits into your topic.
It does fit into my topic. Wow. You're doing my segues for me. Dude, thanks so much. Yeah. So it's current events Monday. I'm talking about rising levels of depression in Gen Z, I think millennials too, but kids in general in this generation. Rising levels of depression, suicide rates are up. There are mental anxiety moments, all sorts of mental weirdness happening. Why is all this occurring? What's going on? We'll get into the thick of it. Jake,
and I'm going to be talking about transgenderism in the military draft.
Wow. Oh yeah, that broke this week. Where the headline was intriguing to me. So they're literally transgendered. What is it? Transgendered women who are so they're actually
transgendered women who were biologically male now have to sign up for the military.
Yeah,
because they are still biologically male. Yes,
and the U.S. military is admitting that. Yeah. That's wonderful. So I can't wait to get into all that. Okay, so here we go. Before we get into all that, though, if you are a usual follower of the show, we always have a verse of the week. So we have one verse, or a set of verses this week. It's 2 verses. So it's so hard to just pick one. So it's 2 verses that we talk about every day of the week. So we have 3 episodes a week. Again, I'm reiterating a lot of this because we probably have a lot of new listeners. So I want to keep reiterating this. We have 3 episodes a week. Monday is current events. Wednesday, we don't do Tuesday, we skip every other day. Wednesday is principled literature. So this month we're reading Christian Nationalism by Andrew Torba. Was endorsed by Doug Wilson on the back. He wrote a little bit of an endorsement for it. So, that's cool. And then we're talking on Friday, we always have a discussion topic. So stay tuned for this week. If you are a Marvel fan, or maybe I should use past tense now, I don't know. People, we'll talk about that, right? But if you are a Marvel fan,
if you were once a Marvel fan,
yeah, right. If you used to fit into the Marvel fan category, we've got a show for you. Went all VeggieTales mode there for a second. So we're gonna be talking about the brand new series they just wrapped up, and we have some hot takes on that. We have some probably hot takes and not so hot takes.
For most stronger-ish Christians, at least the people that now have joined us, if they come from that conference, they would agree with us though. So it's not necessarily a hot take.
Well, that's why we've got some hot takes and some not hot takes. So yeah, good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, pointing that out. That's good. Yeah. But anyways, that's our Friday episode. Brand new show just wrapped up. I think it's been 2 months going, and we watched every single episode the day it came out. We did it for you, so you better watch the Friday episode.
I think there was also some discussion on us watching the new Rings of Power series because we haven't seen very many videos on that.
We get enough people to vote for it. Some of these things are just torturous.
If everybody wants us to do a breakdown of that and for us to talk about that and actually,
let us know.
Tell you why you shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, right. We will gladly fall on the sword and take the risk, take the shot for you, our beloved audience. All right. How's that? Okay. Great. All right. So,
Verse of the week.
Verse of the week. Here we go. We're both going to have to cut our current events a little short today. That's okay, because we're having fun. We have a lot to talk about today, so that's all right if it's not so full on the current events side, because there's a lot of cool other information. All right. I don't know if our audience is okay with us compromising like that, but hey, I'm going to compromise like that, and they can complain later. I always say compromise first, complain later. I never say that. Don't repeat that ever. All right, so...
it may work in this situation. Don't ever apply this to anything else. It will never work
again. And nowhere else should you compromise first and apologize later. Okay. All right. So, let's talk about
track. Verse of the week.
Verse of the week. All right. I'm focused now. It's like I got ADHD or something. Sheesh. Okay.
Hey, that plays into your topic.
Oh, it does. Look at that. Unintentional sort of. All right. That kind of worked. Okay. So our verse this week is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 11 through 12. Great proverb. And it says, "My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, or be weary of his reproof. For the Lord reproves him whom he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights." And again, that's Proverbs chapter 3, verses 11 through 12. So the spiritual and practical applications of this are fairly obvious, I would think, to most Christians, right? Don't despise the Lord's discipline, or be weary of his reproof. And a lot of times we can read this multiple ways. We can be like, oh, God is giving me this horrible situation because I am sinning in whatever ways. And that may be true. And you definitely need to consider that. Is the situation you're in a reproof from God? Is it God saying, hey, stop what you're doing, turn around, confess your sins, and turn back to me? Is it God saying that? And so he's put you in this scenario. But then there are also scenarios where you have to consider the fact that, like Job, God is doing it for another reason. And Toby Sumter had a great message on that at the conference. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, or at least bring that point up. Later on he said, for the Lord, here in Proverbs it says, "For the Lord reproves him whom he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights." And this proverb is expounded on more in Hebrews chapter 12. And I wanted to just read this passage really quickly because it gives us a little bit more context into this particular proverb before I move on with the rest of my description. So Hebrews chapter 12, and then I'm going to read three verse 7, and then verses 9 and 10. So that passage says, "It is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? For they disciplined us for a short time, as it seemed best to them." He's talking about earthly fathers. "They disciplined us for a short time as it seemed best to them. But he," talking about God, "disciplines us for our good, that we may share his holiness." And Jake, I'd love for you to bring up a point on that, which you brought up on our fireside chat about Toby Sumter's message in a moment. For the moment, continuing with the passage, "For the moment, all discipline seems painful." So in the moment, discipline seems painful. All discipline is painful. It's like, oh, why do I have to go through this? But then, it doesn't seem pleasant, rather than pleasant. "But later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it." And that was Hebrews chapter 12, verses 7, and then 9 and 10. This is part of this was Toby Sumter was talking about Job. And we were talking on our first fireside chat at the beginning of last week. You brought up the point that it was not just so that Job could learn things, but it wasn't just so that he could grow in holiness, grow more Christ-like, but it was so that God's holiness could be demonstrated to the world, right? That was the point you were bringing up?
It was very interesting because he was saying that everybody sees the God questioning Job as, oh, it's a humbling of Job. But there was an essence to it, and Toby Sumter was talking about it, that he was like a push to Job to say, shout louder, speak louder.
Speak up.
Speak up.
Yeah.
And so I found that very interesting, and you should watch the Toby Sumter's lecture to try and find out a little bit more as to why he was saying that and how he made that connection.
Yeah. I just thought that that whole lecture was just fantastic.
Yeah.
So anyways, there's a lot more we can say, but we have 2 more days to say it. So I'm just going to leave that verse description there, and you'll have to tune in Wednesday and Friday to hear us break it down just a little bit more, because there's so many different facets. I mean, all of these verses we break down on the show every week have so many facets to them. We only have 3 days to pull them out, and there's not much you can do in a 5 to 10 minute segment, which is what this has turned into. Right. So that's why pastors spend like an entire sermon on one verse, like an hour-long sermon, because there's always so much in the Word of God. So, all right. Well, anywho, Jake, you want to take the next 10 minutes talking about your current event, and then I'll take the last 5 of the show and talk about mine? Or this episode will just go a little long.
If you can do yours in 5.
I doubt it, but we'll try. Maybe I'll just literally read directly from my notes. All right, take it away.
So, when I first saw this, right, I already read the headline. The headline was, trans women who were born male must sign up for military draft. And my first reaction, my first thought was the phrase that people use, even a broken clock is right twice a day. The military is now recognizing the biological differences that God has instituted.
This is like one of those, for they know the truth.
Right, for sure, yeah.
Somebody over there at the Pentagon knows the truth, but is suppressing it in unrighteousness. And then they poke out. Like every once in a while, you get little rays, and it's like, look at that. They're not as diluted as we thought they were.
Right. And in this policy that even if you're a trans woman, if you want to call yourself a woman, yet you're biologically a male, you still have to sign up. This has been a policy for a while now.
Wow.
But it is now receiving new attention due to a recent post the SSS made.
SSS.
And the SSS is the Selective Services something.
Yeah.
What was the last part of that? It was Selective Service something. But they made a direct quote saying, "Parents, if your son is an only son and the last male in your family to carry the family name, he is still required to register with SSS."
Wow. Compulsory
First of all,
draft.
that quote in and of itself, I'm like, wow,
Horrifying.
That's just very, But even so, people came out in outrage about that quote, and it made people start looking into more of who has to be allowed, who has to register and stuff. But the measure, for the people who were supposed to be registered, used to be dependent on who could vote.
Wow.
So it used to be that men had to register. And that was because they were allowed to vote. If you were allowed to vote, you had to register. However, since the inclusion of women being allowed to vote, the metric doesn't fit that standard anymore. The Selective Services, however, still hold that biological males have to register for the draft. They haven't allowed women. So I find it funny that women in today's age want to be the same as men. Yet when it comes to fighting in wars, they don't want that. They don't want to be the same.
Right.
They want to. Oh no, we don't want to do that.
How could you
do
that?
Want to. Yeah, we want to be allowed in everything else.
You know what, dude? That angle that you just took there, I didn't even consider that, but that's spot on. You know, like the people that are up in arms right now that are pro transgender, all that garbage, right? They're also the feminists. They're also.
Yeah.
That is a really solid point, that these are the same people who claim that this man is now a woman, but they also are feminists and say that women are better than men, except a man just became a woman because he felt like it. Right. Okay, whatever. That's weird, insane, but hey, nobody said the devil's schemes were consistent. And so there's that. And then they are now up in arms that the man pretending to be a woman is not allowed to fight. Yeah. Wow. But they want women to be just like men. Yeah, that's just
right.
Yeah, it's a good connection.
Yeah. But see, this policy is now seeing a lot of heat from the transgendered community, which is to be expected. They are holding biblical principles, at least to one degree. But one comment in particular that was very funny and had an amazing argument. Let's just set this up. It had an amazing argument and completely and totally and not, and that isn't completely and totally irrational.
Oh, cool.
I was being sarcastic. But it says, being trans isn't fun anymore. I just got my selective service system letter. What? They are going to put me in the trenches.
Being trans isn't fun anymore.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
I thought you were born.
Oh, trans. Snap. I didn't know
it was a fun choice.
Wow. Dude, you are on a roll today, my man. That's a great connection. Yet another. Okay, that's 2 points for Jacob on the Great Connections scoreboard.
But so, all right. Now, there is an argument, right? I don't want to say that this isn't an argument, but now there is an argument to the fact that no person should be forced into the military from a biblical perspective.
Yeah.
Right? But putting that aside for a second, the reaction from these people are truly cowardly. Yes, people are afraid to die. But if you have to put your life on the line to protect your country's biblical values, then there should be some bravery there. This also speaks to the breakdown of modern day man.
Yes.
Men were designed by God to be brave and to stand and fight for his family / his country. But today, we have cowardly men.
Yep.
And to be honest, that is by design. The secular religion is making sure people are too afraid to fight back.
Yes.
We see this in the attack on Trump's home in Florida, how they're trying to make you scared. They're trying to say at any point we could come into your house and just look through everything and basically destroy everything. But we also see this in the left's reaction to what took place on January 6th. That even if you're doing something completely and totally harmless, they will blow it out of proportions and make it seem like you are a terrorist.
Yep.
So, that's my spiel.
Dude. Bravo. Let's give Jacob props, everybody. Comment down below if you agreed that those were definitely 2 on the scoreboard for Jake in the awesome connections category. You know how to spot a lie, my friend, and you've done it multiple times. That was really good. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else to add before we move on to my next article?
That is it. Hopefully I didn't take up too much of your time.
Yeah, I got 7 minutes left. I can do this. I can make it.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Okay, so here we go. Speed reading abilities put to the test. You remember when we were little, we did, we were homeschooled, obviously.
We would have to do speed reading challenges.
Well,
with spelling, wasn't it?
I don't know if it was spelling, but it was like the, what was it? The reading comprehension. Right, where you read through it was like 3 paragraphs, and then you go to the back and you circle the things.
And then you had to answer questions on it.
Yeah, and you had to do that all timed. So you're not just like reading, but you're also checking your comprehension level. So you have to flip the page over and like circle. Yeah, that's what the next 7 minutes on this show are going to be for me. So here we go, everybody. Buckle up. It's reading comprehension time. Okay, so all right. My headline starts out by asking a question, and it's a really good question. Why are kids so sad? Subtitle is Depression and Anxiety and Suicides are up. So depression, anxiety, and suicides are up. Whoever wrote this does not like Oxford commas. Just don't blame technology. That's the headline and the subheadline and the subtitle, whatever it's called. That's those 2 things. Okay, so this article was intriguing to me. Okay, there was good research in it, and it was written from a leftist perspective, so there were angles that were not good. So instead of just breaking down the article, what I decided to do was write 2 columns. I wrote a what they got right column and a what they got wrong column. So I'll be breaking it down that way. What I would like you as the audience to do, here's your bit of homework. We just talked about school a little bit earlier on the show, so now we have to assign homework because that's how it works. You mentioned that word and homework immediately follows. Unless you were homeschooled. Yay! Anywho, check out this article. It's in the description below. Read through this because there's a lot more information in here that I won't really have time to get through. But let's talk about what they got right first, and then we'll get into what they got wrong. And then I want to have a quick conversation about covenantal succession. And you're sitting there like, what do you mean covenantal succession? We're talking about depression. Yeah, it's all connected. Just hold on. We'll get there. Bear with me. It's not a conspiracy theory. Trust me. Here's what they got right. The article points out that there are rising levels of depression and mental disorders of various kinds. And that's true. Extreme anxiety, ADHD, there's rising levels of that like we've never really seen before. A lot of that obviously can be attributed to vaccines or vaccines that aren't vaccines. So, hey, Jake, we just got banned on YouTube again. How about that? I just said vaccine. Okay. We need
Hi, YouTube moderators.
Hi, YouTube moderators. Yeah, right. We know you're watching. All right. So the article also points out that it's not a technology problem. Okay. Many associate tech with the rise in depression because technology is new, right? It has never really been as prevalent as it. By technology, we're talking about things like this, like my iPad here, my phone, watches, all that kind of stuff is never been as prevalent as it is now. This amount of information, and that does a lot of different things, and we might have to do a whole episode on just technology and how it affects your brain, because it does. But many people associate tech with the rise in depression because it's new and kids are spending more and more time on their devices. But that doesn't mean it's the cause. And the article went into more of that, so check that out. Don't have time right now. Check it out. It's really good. Technology is not the problem, or it's not the main problem. It's not the majority of the problem. They also correctly identified the fact that this problem is a societal issue, not just a string of random and disconnected incidents. There's a fundamental problem with the way our society is structured. They acknowledge that. Even the left has to acknowledge that. And they do in this article. It's fascinating. Read it. I'm telling you. Read it. Don't just take my word for it. It's kind of crazy.
Isn't this interesting that both of our articles show a sense of the left actually getting something right?
Yeah.
The secular ideology actually getting something right for once.
Yes. Sort of analyzing it. And they're still created in they have the Imago Dei. They're created in the image of God. So sometimes they're going to get it right.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that when they do, they're actually living within a Christian worldview. So
yeah,
there you go.
And that's my whole argument with Christian nationalism is that people want Christian nationalism.
Yes.
They just don't know they want it.
Yes, exactly. Dude, great point. Great. Okay. Point number three. I got to start racking up some of these here. I'm losing big time. All right. So let's talk about what they got wrong. I got 3 minutes left. I can do this. Okay. What they got wrong in this article. They constantly pointed to children spending extended periods of time with their parents as a huge part of the problem.
Whoa.
That's a huge part of their problem. That was their big red flags. Children had to spend more time with their parents. Here's a direct quote from the article. This will haunt your dreams. There's the pandemic that has trapped kids inside with their families. A recipe for unhappiness all around, if ever there was one. So spending time with your family is now a recipe for unhappiness. Let that be.
The only reason it's a recipe for unhappiness is because they didn't spend the time around their family to get to know and understand their family when they were younger.
Okay, you know what? I'm taking down the scoreboard. I can't do this anymore. Yeah, great point. That was number 4. Good job. Okay. They also claim that there are more teens experimenting with their sexual identity than experimenting with sexuality. And that's a bad thing, apparently. The second half of this equation is apparently a problem and can be remedied by parents supervising their children less. I'll leave it at that because the article goes into more detail. And if there's a younger audience, I don't want to go into all of that because it's utter garbage. Read it. It's bonkers. Okay, last point on what they got wrong. Autonomy, the article claims, autonomy is vitally important for kids to learn. According to the article, they need to develop an internal locus of control, that's their phrase, which is the sense that your choices and actions affect your life and that they matter. That your choices and actions affect your life and that they matter. Children have no problem, this is what I'm asserting. This is my assertion. Children have no problem being independent. Okay? The article's like, the problem is they're not independent. They don't know that their choices have consequences and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, okay, hold on a second here. You've clearly never had kids. Children have no problem being, quote unquote, independent or trying to take control, okay? They love making decisions. Trust me, they love making decisions. What does an ill-trained child do, or even a baby? What do they do when they don't get their way? What do they do? Anyone can answer that. They cry. That's what they do. They don't get their way, they cry. They have a will. They want to make decisions. That's innate. It's built in. Usually they're the wrong ones. That's why they have parents. Ultimately, it's a sin issue. Children do not naturally want to follow the fifth commandment. What children need to learn is the fact that they are in a covenantal relationship with their Creator, and He has called them to make choices and actions in accordance with His word. That's the problem. Not that kids need to be more independent. Not that kids need to experiment with their sexuality more. Not that kids need to spend less time with their parents and their family. No. They need to understand that they are in a covenantal relationship with their Creator and that He has called them to make choices and actions in accordance with His word. That is what the problem is. They don't understand that. As Christians,
well, I mean, you can't necessarily say that that's the problem anyways, because in our current culture, we have more followers than leaders.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas that wasn't necessarily true earlier in America's history.
Right.
We had a lot more people creating their own businesses.
Yes.
We had more entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Where now we have just employees. We have these huge businesses that have hundreds and hundreds of employees with only maybe 50 people as management.
Right.
And so,
but I would assert that what you're describing, that entrepreneurial spirit, just like freedom and liberty, declines when you subtract a Christian worldview.
Yeah.
Those things are they're hand in hand with the Christian worldview. I mean, our rights come from God, our freedoms come from God. Yeah. Everything that is good comes from God. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, right? So you cannot have an entrepreneurial spirit, which makes sense that it would be diminishing rapidly, without having a biblical worldview. So okay, so that's 5. Goodness, I need to rack up. Are you even counting mine? I don't think he's even counting mine, guys. I think that's. I'm going to call the ref.
5. I'll put you 5 up there. We'll be on the same page. It's fine.
Okay. We should ask the audience to count and see if they can. No, I won't do that.
Yeah, there you
go. All right. So,
if the audience is counting, you have 10, I have 5.
What? That's just because I spoke last. I don't even. All right. So I have three quick points I want to make. I'll get through them really quickly because we're already 2 minutes over time. But we can do this, people. We can do this. Stick with me. As Christians, we know that the real problem, we know what the real problem is, and we understand that depression is rising because, as so many before us have done, we have failed to properly disciple the nation we reside in. We've failed to properly disciple America. We have failed to make the nation of America a disciple of Christ, which is what Christ said. Go and make disciples of all nations, which means make all the nations into disciples. Every nation should be a disciple of Christ as a nation. We have failed to do that with America as a nation. And we failed to maintain a proper outlook on children and the next generation as a result. Part of this is generational sin. God takes sin seriously. When generations of Christians fail to properly worship, which means to serve, worshiping is serving God. When they fail to properly worship God, this has generational repercussions. Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 9 says, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me. It goes on to discuss the blessings of those that love him, but this part is essential, that there are repercussions, and repercussions for future generations. Generational sin is very real, and God takes it very seriously. My final point, in Scripture, we also find a very high view of covenantal succession. Remember, I told you we were going to get here. This is how they're connected. It's all connected. Dun, dun, dun. We find a very high view of covenantal succession in Scripture. And what that means is generations of parents and children belonging to the covenant. That's covenantal succession. If you haven't heard of it before, go to your pastor. And if he's never heard of it before, find a real church. Children are important. Sorry, I just dissed a whole bunch of pastors out there. I'm so sorry. I'm sort of sorry. Okay. Children are important. And parents having a right relationship to them, and vice versa, is crucial. And this last part, I think this is the hopeful. I want to leave everybody on a hopeful part. This is the hopeful part here. Okay. Malachi chapter 4, the last chapter of the Old Testament, very last chapter. It concludes the very last paragraph, the very last sentence in the very last chapter, in the very last book of the Old Testament, ends with this. It concludes with a hope for the future that God will have victory. The precursor to that victory, one of the signs, one of the things we should be working towards as Christians, for that victory, heaven on earth, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. One of the precursors to that is a restoration of the family. A restoration of the family is a major precursor to the kingdom of God being here on earth. And you can look that up in Malachi chapter 4, verse 6. Okay. There's so much more. There's so many more connections to covenantal succession all throughout all of this, and I wish I had more time, but I don't. So there it is. If you have questions, send us an email at trdshow@protonmail.com. Check out our show website, trdshow.net. Sign up for our newsletter, trdshow.net/newsletter. You definitely don't want to miss that. Check out our website because we got all sorts of cool stuff there. Buy our merch. We've got mugs. We've got stickers. We've got fun things. Not beanie hats yet, but we should get some knit hats or something like that.
People asked about beanie hats?
I don't know. It just popped into my head, and I was like, we don't have hats. We don't have any hats, and I'm not a hat person.
We need to have hats. I'm not going to say beanie hats. Those are weird.
Are they? But... Wait, what's the knit? Oh, I'm thinking knit hat. What's a beanie hat? Is that the Jewish?
Hat, but...
Oh, it's a knit hat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was right. All right, sweet.
Those are weird.
They're baseball very like Gen Z sort of thing to wear. Jake, I almost wrapped it up without asking you if you had anything to add. What do you have to say?
I only had like a rhetorical question.
Ooh, do it. I love rhetorical questions.
But it's like, wait, so you're saying that in order to restore the earth, we need to bring the family back to a biblical perspective? Never heard that before.
What? That's unthinkable. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought. Yeah. Yep.
And that wasn't a rhetorical question. That was sarcasm. There you go.
That was sarcasm.
Sarcasm.
You're being facetious. All right. Thank you, everyone, again, so much for watching or listening to us today. Don't forget, show website, email, newsletter. Sign up for it now. And we will see you on Wednesday when we discuss Christian Nationalism by Andrew Torba. And remember, everyone, in all that you do, do it as unto the Lord.